Welcome to the Eugene Cannabis TV episode 557. You made the trip, and we've got a special guest tonight. First of all, you got your host, Dank, and then our special guest is Elvie Musica. Elvie is one of 4 living federal medical marijuana program patients, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. So thanks for coming, Elvie.
Thank you for having me again.
You bet. Elvie's been down in Florida and then over to Georgia. That's some more stuff we got to talk about, but Elvie is a real campaigner for medical marijuana and patients' rights to use the medicine that benefits everybody that uses it. And we just got to fight the ignorance so that we can use it. So now, how did you, I thought about was is that maybe we could give a rundown of basically how did you end up being a medical marijuana patient and some of the people you met in that process.
Mm-hmm. Well, it really took only about 14 years, the loss of one eye, going through hell and back, and then going through trial and getting my community behind me and winning it, and then keeping them behind me until the DEA and FDA and NIDA approved my application to get the federal marijuana that they grow at the University of Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened.
That's fantastic. Have you ever been there?
No.
No?
No, of all the travels I've done, I have none made it to Oxford.
Well, I remember it was interesting. You might have seen some pictures of Elvie. They're on the internet of Elvie with her tin of joints, big round tin of joints. And you get what, one of those a year? Or?
I'm allowed to have one every month. Now I don't know. I don't always have them because I cannot be going back to Florida, say every 3 months. So I only try to go once a year and take half a year's supply, and then supplement the rest with Oregonian better grass.
Yeah, and you tried shipping it once and it didn't work out, right?
No, one time I was there for 2.5 months and it had not arrived, and I had to return. And so, but it was okay. We agreed with the pharmacy and my attorney and my doctor and blah, 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 and it was going to come to me. Well, they put it in the mail, and that was the last of it. So a 6-month supply got lost, and no one had to answer for it. It's amusing how medical marijuana patients get treated in this society. Even to that extent, we can actually be robbed by a federal agency, or if they turn it to the police again, robbed of a 6-month supply of my medicine and no consequences to anyone. Now, if I stole anybody's marijuana, I'm sure there would be a consequence to me.
Nobody wanted to mess with it.
Nope.
Nobody, because the government, they didn't want to, the post office, nobody wanted to mess with it. And the whole problem, if I remember correctly, was the person that sent it to you missed his zip code by 1 number.
1 digit, and got it to Santa Monica. We traced it all the way to Santa Monica, and that was the end of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, Santa Monica didn't have the addresses I had on the rest of the zip code, or it was so bogus. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the mystery of the missing herb for that month. But well, that's great. And then you were in Georgia too. Now, what did you do in Georgia?
Well, the South is really, especially after Florida lost that election, and that is really very sad and very pathetic. But since then, especially, it's been like a revival. There are at least 5 states that are really running neck and neck trying to get marijuana legalized, period, and of course medical marijuana in, if nothing else. So yeah, they're working at it, and one of those states happens to be Georgia. So while I was in Florida, I was invited to go up to Georgia and educate some people there. We were lucky enough to do some incredibly good interviews with CBS Morning News, and we were able to go in front of the Capitol. We were also able to do some lobbying. It was a really worthwhile experience. And it was like going back in time. I thought I was back in the 90s when I was traveling this country trying to do what they're trying to do there now. I was here with you.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. That was great. I didn't even know. I knew you were in Florida, but the next thing I know, I'm reading about you being in Georgia. I thought, what? What's she doing in Georgia?
Then I was supposed to go to North Carolina next week, but they never got the funding together.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
Fell through.
Well, it's credible. In fact, speaking of legalization, I just read that of the 4 states that legalized, Washington, Colorado, Alaska, and Oregon, Oregon had the largest
Yes.
percentage of votes.
Yeah,
that makes highest sense. Percentage of votes of all 4 states. So That's kind of neat. Of course, Washington, D.C. beat everybody. They
Yeah.
had 70%. That's
Oh,
unheard
DC,
of.
DC always has, and they've always been denied their vote. What's going on
Yeah.
with that now?
The last I heard, the government, the federal government told them if they implemented it, there's going to be people going to jail, and the city said ignored it and implemented it, and then they're going forward with it. Now the push is they're trying to get the city to authorize marijuana clubs.
Right.
And so that's going to be the next push, as I understand it. But and they're talking about 420 this year is going to be a big celebration.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
But back to the medical or the federal program, there's four people. How many that started out of the program?
Well, when I joined the program back in 1988, there were only 2 men smoking in the whole country. That was Robert Randall, the man who started the program, who, like myself, was a glaucoma victim. And then there was Irving Rosenfeld, the stockbroker, who has those tumors at the end of all his bones, who should have died as a teenager. Trust me, he's alive and well.
Yeah, wow. That's
And he's like in his 50s or 60s, I forget. He's way up there too. We're all getting old.
All right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so, and out of the four of you, 3 are actually active in.
I was like the first woman, and there were only 2 men. Now,
Okay.
since then, my case did get a lot of notoriety all over the world. I got interviews from Germany, from Canada. It was amazing, the people that were, even Japan. But anyway, at the same time, the AIDS epidemic was breaking through, and people were finding that they could be helped with cannabis. Just all kinds of things were happening, and people were starting to really want to change the laws. And to that extent, Dennis Barone here in the West Coast back in 1991 passed his first medical marijuana laws, where in San Francisco you could use marijuana legally. And that's when I came and started working west with him and others, and I ended up in Santa Cruz, where we passed another initiative, for the same kind of an initiative for that county at the elections where Bill Clinton got elected. We followed him around quite a while too. And all that happened, but we still didn't have a state law in California. And so we were trying in 94, I spent all of 94 in California. At that time working in Jack Hare's initiative. He had befriended me, and it was an awesome learning experience to work with Jack, especially that year. His friend was Richard Davis, who traveled with the Hemp Museum, and he and I traveled quite a bit of this country ourselves. And I had traveled with Jack all over as well.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we were, our whole mission, and it still is educate. Thank you for doing this show, because this is what it's all about.
Oh yeah.
People really need to know what's going on, because up to that point I really felt, and up to this millennium, that ignorance blinds us. Big letters on US on that, blinds us at so many levels that it's really pathetic. But this year has been 40 years for me, and I'm really celebrating. I'm celebrating the fact that ignorance is totally optional this time. We can no longer, the politicians can no longer hide on their "we don't know, there's not enough research" baloney. Of course there's no research. You got a Substance Control Act running your lives. And the Substance Control Act is nothing but one more lie by Richard Nixon, who then had to leave the presidency for lack of honesty, and left us with that inheritance of the Substance Control Act, and as it applies to marijuana. As long as that's in effect, that's what rules federal law. And the problem with that is that there will never be any acceptable research, which of course is ridiculous. You got 4 states that are collecting more evidence that you could possibly find if you tried real hard all over the world, because it's already at the doctor's offices with the patient's names. They got their cards, they get their medicine. And guess what, folks? Some of them have really actually beaten stage 3 and 4 cancers, and they're alive and well, but like me, they're antitotals. I sometimes sign my name that way, antidotal. Oh, yes. We don't count, and we never will until you get rid of the Substance Control Act, which in Oregon we have, and how many other states? I knew 7 had, but I don't know now anymore.
I'm not sure.
But it's got to be changed federally, and you really need to stay with your legislators and with that president and keep pushing until you get it done, because you've come this far. That's my celebration, is when I started this every joint I smoke, I had to look for, I had to beg, I mean, my whole life had to change so I could smoke. And it ended up costing me my job, no respect from family, losing a lot of friends, people that didn't understand, or ignorance blinds us was the theme of my life. But like I said, that's ancient history. Today, ignorance only blinds those who wish to stay ignorant.
And speaking of respect, Rodney Dangerfield, I get no respect.
No
And he was a
respect.
big stoner.
Yes, he was. Yeah, his wife has encouraged me to go into comedy, by the way.
Oh, good. That's a great idea.
I think
Yeah,
about that. I
Yeah.
think about it very seriously.
You talk about people you met. That's the thing I always enjoyed about Elvie. The majority of the people in the movement you hear about, she knows them, and it's incredible. I enjoy going to her place and the books and the posters, and she's got the most incredible memorabilia. It's just, oh my gosh! So we're gonna have to start a museum for some
Yeah.
of your stuff.
I definitely need you to come down. One of you come down, and we can go through some of those scrapbooks, posters that
Right.
aren't even hanging because I don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
room. Or
You
don't
don't have
know
room,
how.
yeah.
And no,
Oh, yeah.
we need to have all that documented because
Yeah.
I'm not going to be carrying this stuff forever.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
just needs to be archived.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's incredible. And then, excuse me. So your eye problem is an ongoing, still an ongoing thing, especially with the botched surgeries. I think you were talking about.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
For 37 years, we took care of my left eye. Okay, my right eye went the first 12 years while we were trying to find a safer alternative than marijuana. I learned the meaning of hell during those years. That is when they would give me drops. One of them would shrink my pupil to where I wake up in the middle of the night already blinded. And this is what they gave me to keep from going blind
Sure.
and to substitute marijuana. Another one gave you such muscle spasms that you would want to scream at the top of your lungs. I know because I was in a bus when I made the mistake of putting one in one of my eyes. And then I wanted to stick my head out the window and scream, but I knew they would have just locked me up in the funny farm where I was headed for at the rate these things were happening to me anyway. The pilocarpine was one of the most popular used for glaucoma, and it still is sometimes. But pilocarpine, again, constricts your pupil. And I already had a child's sized pupil, so I didn't need another drop to make me see less by getting less light in the eye. Diamox took all my potassium, where I sat for about laid in bed for 5 days. As soon as I get home from work, I'd go to that bed and stare at the ceiling. I don't know who fed my kids. I don't know who cleaned my house. I don't know that any of those things happened. I couldn't care less. And that was the week I was supposed to start school, because I worked at a bank, and they were very good about encouraging you to enhance your education.
I'll bet. We got to take a break here, and we'll come back in the second half, Elvie. So we'll continue our incredible and interesting talk with Elvie Musica, and we really appreciate Elvie coming in today. She just got back from her travels, and so we're lucky to have her here. So we're going to take a break and be right back on episode 557. We'll be right back.
Grandpa's got glaucoma, now he's on the witness stand, 'cause he lives in Oklahoma, where medical use is banned. He tried some marijuana, doctor said he wouldn't tell, but that doc turned Grandpa in, now he's in this prison cell. Should have gone to Normal, that's NORML, normal.org, right from your Dell. They fight the marijuana laws, both federal and state. Just enter in your email, they'll keep you up to date.
Welcome back to the second half of episode 557, the Eugene Cannabis TV show. You got Dank here, and we have our special guest, Elvie Musica. We've been talking about her experience with being the federal medical on the federal medical marijuana program. 4 patients left on that program, and we were going to talk about her activities here in Oregon and how things are going in legalization. Were you surprised that it passed, or what was your
No, I knew you were going to pass it. I didn't get to go to Florida and work on their initiative, which I really felt I needed to be there, but it didn't work out that way. But here is where I really wanted to be, because I knew we would have something to celebrate. I know your dedication. I know you missed it the last time, and we weren't going to let that happen this time. I know that.
Yeah, well, I was just, of course, You know, we wasn't convinced it would pass, but sure hoped it would. And then we passed with a 12-point spread. That is fantastic.
Amazing.
So,
And when that sheriff from Washington got on that television,
yeah.
that was the end of the game from what I could see. When he made it very clear to anyone watching that in Washington, like in Colorado, deaths by over drugging have dropped by over 26%, when traffic fatalities have dropped, crime by 50%. Yes, those are the things we needed to hear and know, and those things need to be brought to the rest of the country, because there are still too many states that don't even have medical marijuana, and they want to change that.
That's right. And what Elvie's talking about is the Oregon State Sheriff's Association came out fighting the Measure 91. And first of all, I don't know why cops are doing anything on bills and like that anyway. But anyway, they came up and said, no, we shouldn't. No, we don't need legalization. We shouldn't have legalization. It'll cause all kinds of problems. They came out stone against it. And that's when the sheriff from Washington, the state of Washington, I forget the county, but the state of Washington piped up and said, hey, it's working great up here.
And he told us to get out and vote. He says, it should be better there. Yeah. This one will be better for you. And he was right.
Yeah.
God bless him.
Yeah.
Well, the sheriffs in Florida were saying, nay, nay, nay. And there they had like grocery stores as big as Albertsons, but it wasn't Albertsons, it was Publix. And they put in a lot of money to keep marijuana from being legal. And all I can say is, don't forget, not a penny on 420. If you happen to know people who live in a state where medical marijuana is not a reality yet, please write them, call them, have them spread the word. Not a penny on 420 unless it is marijuana, hemp, cannabis related.
Yeah, Colorado was kind of a weird deal, because for it to pass, it had to be 60% of the vote. And I think it passed with 58%. So if you think about it, first of all, it passed with over 50%. But then with the law, you got to have 60%, which is kind of screwy. But even then, they came really close, and so it's really disappointing in Florida. Yeah, and it's really disappointing that they got that close, and after going through all that they did. But at the same time, I bet you then it'll pass next time.
Oh, I'm certain they will pass it through. They will definitely pay attention to some of the dichotomies that got ignored and they could not afford to ignore. The Spanish community, the elder, those are serious people to deal with. My mother, I was born in Colombia. My mother is Colombian, and I mean, she died, and she accepted the fact I needed marijuana while I needed to get it. But once I became outspoken about it, I became the menace of the family. I don't have a family. Half my family is not my family anymore. And, that's fine with me. I'm so sorry, but ignorance blinded us,
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah. Well, that's, let's see. Oh, yeah, it's not about, let's see. The governor. Who's the governor of Florida now? Is he?
Jeb Bush.
Oh, that's right.
They elected him.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah. Well, so anyway, so now we have Measure 91. It passed with a 12-point spread, which we're really excited about.
Yes.
But now we're in the Oregon legislature, and by the way, I want to mention something. I don't know if you knew this or not, but the person that is in charge at the Oregon Liquor Control Commission, the person they put in charge to implement Measure 91 is a DA from Klamath County. Yeah, and he was opposed to it.
Oh.
And they got him now he's in administrating the program. And I'm talking about bigotry. And I mean, there's a prime example of it right there.
Right.
To put somebody in charge of the program that has no interest in it, didn't even want it passed. And so how's that? How's that supposed to work?
Okay, I know how it's going to work for them, and they are really working hard at it, and they're going to achieve it if they keep it up. Now, I heard that Jackson County and all kinds of people are thinking of adding more taxes. It's already a 35% tax, which is already astronomical to my point of view. And 20% of that goes back to the cities that produce that money. Why are they so greedy that now those cities want more money? What's going to happen then? We don't want to give up. This sheriff that's running the liquor industry, he wants to make sure he still can go and rob the people with your approval. That's all it is. You're just keeping the black market going. You're going to make it so impossible that there will be no option for any of us except to go to the black market unless we just overgrow you. And of course, we have the right to do that. So it should be very interesting. But it's up to you what happens.
Yeah, it's yeah. The law is written at 35%, which I agree is pretty steep. But at the same time, it's only taxed once.
Right.
That's the thing about Colorado. It's taxed at 3 different levels, as I understand it. So that's the reason why their taxes are really astronomical.
And they are saying that the black market is very much alive
Oh
there.
yeah. Oh, in fact, from what I'm understanding, they're actually both doing real well.
That's what I heard. Both of them are doing just fine.
So yeah.
So maybe they're more thoughtful of us than we thought they were. Maybe they want to protect our growers and make sure they don't lose their income, right?
You heard about Colorado and Oklahoma? They're suing Colorado, trying to put the kibosh on their.
Wasn't Idaho thinking of doing that to us too,
I
or
wouldn't doubt
some
it.
crazy
I don't know.
stuff like that?
But it's. It's that's why when we passed Measure 91, I had several people say, "Well, what are you going to do now? It's legal. It's passed. You're over. You're done. What are you going to do now?" I said, "What do you mean? What am I going to do now?" I said, "This was a battle, and it was a big battle, and we won big, but it was a battle. We're still in the war, and the battle right now is going on up in Salem, where they're trying to tear down what we have now."
Yeah.
They've been trying to do that to the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program ever since it was implemented in '98. So nothing new, and it's the same old thing. And then some of our peers, well, just don't be negative, blah blah blah. Well, no, I'm being realistic.
No, you have to be aware of what's going on before you can make any changes or contribute in any way to help with it.
And that's Senator Lee Byer of Springfield. People, listen up. If you live in Springfield, please vote him out. I've dealt with this guy in the past. He's not the sharpest pencil in the box, and he's on the commission, on the liquor commission. So he's part of this, working on the legalization. And he is quoted. I have the newspaper article. He is quoted as saying, "Well, this is a statutory initiative, so it can be changed."
Right.
In other words, the people vote on it, but regardless of that, we can still change it if we want to. Well, what's wrong? I mean, yes, they can, but
what's the point of having free elections? Why do we want democracy? What is this about?
Exactly. Why should we even bother voting if they're not going to give us what we voted for? So it's all very, very disheartening and maddening, but we're still moving forward. And so I don't know what we're going to end up with, tell you.
I'll tell you what you're going to end up with. Okay, first of all, like I said, 20 years ago, there wasn't even one single state. Today we got 23. And several of those are legal for anyone over 21 to choose a wiser bud. So what is going to happen? You're at almost at the top of the mountain now, but you still got half the country not with you. The country's with you, but the laws aren't in those states. But the same energy that drove hundreds of thousands of us against all odds all over this country, educating, learning, passing it on, and making sure we all had these elections to vote for. All of you at all levels have been such lights, and you have made it happen. So there is no reason why the ones who haven't joined you yet aren't out there to join you. Make sure you bring them into the fold, because you are at the top of the mountain. Don't let them kick you down like Nixon did before. We almost had, by the time Ronald Reagan came in, we had 36 states that had some kind of semblance of medical marijuana laws in the books. But the cops didn't know about it. The doctors didn't know. The patients, I sure didn't know anything. One of those states was Florida. But those laws also set it out. We let it all go because we didn't pay attention and we didn't keep fighting. But that all changed since the 90s, and you have made all the difference. The fifth generation that had put up with all the lies and misinformation also got access to something called the internet. And all this knowledge that we've been collecting, as you saw many books in my house, that's not even a tenth of what's really out there, is available to you today. There's no excuse for your politician not to know what you know. It's up to you to educate them, whether it's your president, your governor, or anyone that holds any kind of an office. And you are going to make the difference. I know you're not going to let it go back. I just cannot. I've met too many of you. You're too beautiful. I'm very proud to be part of your family, and you are all over this world. I have never been anywhere where medical marijuana isn't totally needed, and where people are not enjoying recreational marijuana, whether it is legal or illegal.
Yep, there you go. Yep, there you go. That's the way it is. You heard it from Elvie, straight from Elvie.
From the horse's mouth.
No, that's true. And the thing is, we need to advocate for ourselves more so, because who's going to stand up better for yourself than you are? And I like to say that we're in a war, and anytime you're in a war, the side with the best weapons, the most powerful weapons, has the advantage. Well, I like to say that we have the most powerful weapon. We have the truth.
That's right.
And part of that truth, and part of that we can use as a weapon, is our pen. So pick up your pen and fight. Because letters to the editor, op-eds, or if somebody wrote a letter to the editor, either good or bad, and you can answer their letter to the editor and send it into the paper. It's in the activist circles, it's called free advertising, because you can't buy that kind of
Right.
spreading the word kind of thing. So, watch the post websites, email addresses that you see on our screen. Check it out, write it down. Get some paper, write it down. dankbagman@hotmail.com. You can get a hold of me. Go on YouTube, and when you watch an episode, make a comment. We have a place for comments, Make a comment and tell us how you like it, what you don't like, some ideas. I'd love to have you come on the show. It's like Elvie did. Always welcome. We're behind Sheldon High School at 7:30. And just come on, and we'll go from there. So anyway, I really appreciate Elvie coming with us and coming on the show rather. And I know you'll be back another time. So looking forward to seeing you then.
That'd be nice. Should I leave my phone number in case anyone wants to get in touch with me about this?
We can post that on the screen, so it'll come up on the screen. Yeah.
All right,
we can
that'll
do that.
be good. You're welcome
Sure,
to call
we'll
me.
talk-
And
okay.
there's a Yan out there who brought me some beautiful flowers on Valentine's.
Okay,
Wanna
very
hear
cool.
from
Very
Yan.
good. We're coming to the end. Thank you. See you next time.
Thank you.